Hi, I'm Leslie with the Center for Gender Equity, and welcome to part 2 of our challah making videos. In part 1, I introduced challah making and Shabbat and started to talk about some possible feminist interpretations of challah and Shabbat, and we also got the actual dough made. Now that we have part 2, we're going to actually braid the dough and have a little bit more of a discussion of the role gender plays, at least for me, in the practice of Shabbat and making challah. So thank you for watching part 1 if you did, and welcome to part 2. We're so glad you could join us. Thank you. Okay, so we're back, and it's been 2 hours. So we'll take a look at our challah, which is looking great. I'll go ahead and dump it out and gently knead it. You don't want to knock everything out. And generally, when you make challah in larger batches, you take a piece. It's actually just called taking challah. And I found this from Ritual Well, which is the Reconstructionist site, and it's an adaptation of the prayer for taking challah. And I'm just going to read. It says, the traditional mitzvah of taking challah refers to removing and burning a small piece of challah dough as a symbolic offering. This mitzvah was created as a connection between groups of people who led separate roles in society and brought holiness to a mundane act. Today, as many of us are in isolation due to COVID-19, we can perform this mitzvah of taking challah as a way to connect us to the wider community. I'm just going to read part of it. Let us go back to the beginning, to the simple and fundamental, to comfort and healing, to warmth and love and care. I take this challah today with hope of a better tomorrow, with wish for healthy and strong future for us all. And then you take a little bit, and that'll go off to the side. The other thing that I was reminded of while I was waiting for this to rise is I forgot to say that I got this recipe off Tasty. So this isn't like my recipe, it's from Tasty. And I did want to acknowledge and give credit to the right people for that. So if you search on Tasty for vegan challah, you'll find this recipe. What I'm going to do now is show you how to braid it. So I'm going to cut it into 4. And roll these out. The shape I'm doing is going to be a circle. Circular challah is traditional for Rosh Hashanah, that's supposed to symbolize the cyclical nature of time and how we return to New Year's. But I really like it. It's aesthetically impressive while not being all that hard to do. And I figured that's what I would show y'all today, is how to make the round one. And after you have 4 strands, as you can see, of equal length, you're going to put 2 across and then 2 perpendicular. And what you're going to do is you're going to have an over-under weave pattern. So this top one goes over, under, and then the bottom one goes under, over. And then you take the strand that's under and put it over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Then you reverse. So the first time we went clockwise, now we're going to go counterclockwise. So this one's under. So it goes over, this one's under, it goes over, this one's under, it goes over, this one's under, and it goes over. And we're just going to do that one more time to cross them. And now that they're crossed, the little tails or the ends, you tuck them under. And you have this, it's not even baked yet, it already looks very impressive. We'll get our pan. Place it on the pan that you want it to cook on. Make sure they're all nice and tucked under. This is the part that we took. It's going to go over to the side. We're going to cover it for its second rise, which is going to be an hour. And in an hour, we'll check back in. Okay, and we're back. It's been an hour, so let's take a look. Oh, wow. Looks amazing. Smells amazing. Ready to go into the oven. The oven's preheated to 325. Again, I have my melted coconut oil. And, you know, challah is also sometimes called egg bread because it's made with eggs and then it has an egg wash on the outside. And seeing as this is vegan challah, the question kind of becomes, what do you do in place of the egg wash? And there's a couple different things you can do. You can do coconut oil. You could do aquafaba, which is the brine from a can of chickpeas. You can do soy milk with a little bit of maple syrup melted into it or dissolved into it. That looks good. And then I'm going to put it in the oven for about 25 minutes. Sometimes it'll be 20, sometimes it'll be 30. It kind of varies. But we'll check on it in 20, but I think it'll be 25 minutes. So in it goes. So here is our finished loaf of vegan challah. It took about 30 minutes in the oven, so all told it was about 3.5 hours, 2 hours for the first rise, an hour for the second rise, and then 25-30 minutes of bake time. Great way to pass the time if you're quarantined in the house. And you'll see that it has a nice golden color, not as shiny as a traditional egg challah. This is going to be vegan, so it's going to have some slight adaptations you have to have. But if you're looking for a certain color, that's one way to tell if your bread is done. A more accurate way to tell if your bread is done is to actually knock on it. And if you hear that hollow sound, you know your bread's done. So this is our done, finished bread. It's always really kind of impressive when you put it on the table. People always say, oh, wow, how'd you do that? Even though the braid itself is not that difficult, it looks impressive. And I always try to save a little bit, so have some on Friday for Shabbat, and then Saturday it makes really great vegan French toast. I hope this has inspired you to make your own bread. It doesn't have to be challah, it doesn't even really have to be bread, maybe just inspired you to bake something. And it's a way that we can all stay at home together, to use the hashtag that's been going around. Hi, and welcome to the end of our 2-part challah making series. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I have. And in addition to picking up some bread making skills, I hope that it's also given you a chance to think about the role of ritual and tradition in your own life and how values might change tradition. So we usually think of tradition as here's this thing we've always done and it shows us what we value. But as our values change as society, it's important to look back at this tradition. Okay, so we've always done it, but why have we done it? And if our values change, should that tradition change? And how might we reconsider and renegotiate ritual and tradition? And I think that's a lot of gender equity work, is not that everything that might be associated with gender inequity and the patriarchy is erased, but that we also look for moments where ritual and tradition can be reworked in order to have new meaning, in order to be fresh and relevant and speak to our current lives and our current values. And that renegotiation gets at something Judith Plasko says in Standing Again at Sinai, where she writes, quote, Shabbat, like kashrut, is a ritual central to Judaism and its system of hierarchical distinction. But it is a ritual that can be reworked to maintain its special quality in a non-hierarchical manner, end quote. And I hope that's what we've been doing today. So challah usually has eggs, but we've reworked it to be vegan. Or the taking challah blessing, it's been reworked to be relevant to COVID-19 and the coronavirus. And all of this renegotiation of tradition, it doesn't pull tradition down. It doesn't say it's not important. In fact, it says, because it's so important, we want to keep it relevant. Because it's important, we want to be able to embody it and have it be relevant to the lives we live today. And it actually ends up strengthening tradition by allowing it to live on. And this strengthening and reworking so that we can have a vibrant society is the work of gender equity. It's looking at tradition to see who's at the table, who has space, who has a voice, and how can we work to have everyone at the table, to have everyone to have space, to have everyone have power to achieve their full potential in life, so that we have a society that is ultimately more just and loving and equitable. And that is the work of gender equity. So thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here, and hopefully we'll talk more soon. Thank you.